probably the work of Madeline Kate Partlow. Yes, she has sabotaged us. Anyways, it's now finally recording, and that's for posterity. So in 3,000 years, they're going to say, what did Madeline Kate Partlow do? And she sabotaged. That's what she did. So future police, get her. Vocabulary that we have to know so that we can understand everything right here. First off is empire, which Alicia so wonderfully defined. A group of many different lands under one ruler. So we have all of these kingdoms ruled by one king called an emperor. So Samuel, he rules over the land of the Ashlands and the Madelines and Averys. Now, since Samuel is our emperor, he demands what is called tribute. Not like the Hunger Games where people have to like battle to the death for entertainment, but this idea that Mariah sends money to Samuel as tribute because her kingdom was defeated by Samuel, and Samuel says, send me this money or else. Another important vocabulary word that we need to remember is the term province. Now, a province is part of, it's a division of territory. Just like how we have a foot, we divide it into inches. You know, we have our country, we divide it into states. Some countries and kingdoms use the term province. For example, Canada, to the north of us, they don't call their section states, they call them provinces. But it really means the same exact thing. All right. Mexico, to the south of us, guess what? They use states like us. But it's the same, different word for the same meaning. Next, an important thing we need to know is the term caravan. Now, a caravan is a group of merchants that are going to be traveling together for protection, because here's the thing. Lance is extremely rich. He has got tons and tons of goods, and Lance wants to sell those goods to make even more money. What Lance does not want is for Danielle and Austin to sneak up and steal his stuff and perhaps hurt him. So Lance goes, hey, Ashlyn, will you travel with me? Carson and Mariah and Alicia and Rylan and Madeline and Haley and Nick, Aiden, travel with me, because they all have their camels together. They're all together. And so then when Danielle and Austin see that huge group, they're like, well, we can't sneak in there and stop them. They might have swords and axes and bows and arrows, and they might make me look like Swiss cheese, which would really ruin my day. So it's for protection. And finally, one of my favorite topics of all time, astronomy. Even our Mesopotamians did astronomy, where they studied the planets and the stars. They were figuring stuff out. It's pretty awesome. So, astronomers, they had those. And they're actually going to use astronomy to be able to, those camel caravans are going to use the stars to navigate to get to the cities. Because it's not like today where Ashley can just like look at a map, or Carson can go like plug into the address to the phone to get to the city. No, they use the stars to help them travel. Pretty cool. Continuing on with our review. So what does the word Mesopotamia mean? I can't remember. I'm so forgetful. This is why I have you amazing fifth graders to help me out here. Who could please either raise their hand or give me a me in the chat for what does the term Mesopotamia mean? Yes, Ashlyn, my dear.
Mesopotamia means in between land.
In between land, yeah. Perfect. In between land, or land between two rivers. Now, in between land is the most accurate direct translation, but we often just say between two rivers because like people are like, in between what? Well, what is it in between? What are the two rivers it's in between? Please only give me one, Samuel.
Tigris.
The Tigris. And give me a second one, please, Karachi.
Euphrates.
The Euphrates, bravissimo, the Tigris and Euphrates. And if you wanted to visit where we're talking about today, you would go to present-day Iraq, because we have the majority of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers within that country. Sumeria and Mesopotamia is all within present-day Iraq. Now, time for the notes. Time for you to get those pens and pencils to the paper so that you can remember this good old stuff. Danielle is ready. She's like, well, bam, got this ready. Love it. Sargon, the ruler of Akkad. Now, Sargon, he has an interesting upbringing. You see, his life was in danger as a child. It was foretold he'd be a great king. Because they were looking for him to kill him, the current king, his mother put him in a reed basket and floated him down the Tigris River. Which, of course, the princess finds this reed basket, says, "Oh, cute, a baby. I always wanted one," and then raises him as her own within the palace. Does this sound familiar at all? Yeah, it does sound like Moses Samuel. We'll see, just like how the Mesopotamians had a similar story to Noah's Ark, we're going to see, we constantly are going to see a lot of these similar stories. Because guess what? He's not going to be the only guy that we talk about this year that's floated down the river, they say. Now, whether it happened or not, I don't know. I wasn't there, but that's how the story goes. So Sargon is raised in the palace, but he is raised, although he's there, he's still considered a commoner. But this commoner is going to overthrow the king of Akkad and wind up conquering all of Mesopotamia with his military might, all of it. And by doing this, he creates the world's first empire. Because remember, an empire is going to be when you have a kingdom ruling over different kingdoms. And each and every single one of those cities in Mesopotamia were city-states, meaning they were their own kingdoms. So no, this isn't the largest empire the world will ever see, but it is the first because of the consolidation of all of those city-states. Now, Sargon I means true king. And he was the true king for 56 years. Side note, I am never going to say, how long did Sargon rule? Because who cares? It does not matter. But you do need to kind of notice that he ruled for most, well, not most, but over a quarter of the Akkadian Empire. So, but more than any other ruler in that time, he is going to maintain stability, prosperity for them. So why true king? Probably because of his, origins and not considered being a true member of the royal family. Probably. We see maybe true king because he's just got such an awesome beard. Now, the capital was called Agade, or sometimes Akkad. So this is one of the complicated things that I want to draw out to you. So right here we see it, Agade. But if you kind of think about how G's and K's are kind of similar, Akkad, Agade, they're probably the same city and just different translations with it, which is one of the problems with looking at cuneiform and other ancient writing and trying to figure out how they would have said things. And just like we talked about, Sargon I says, hey, Nick, I conquered you. You now have to pay me tribute. Madeline, I conquered you. You now have to pay me tribute. Madeline Kate did something different with her hair. It looks nice. Now, they also created these things called steles. This is a stele right here. It's a 3D statue. So it's like a relief statue where it's carved out and it's 3D. You can put your hand over it. It feels all good. So it's a 3D statue, and they'd be all over the place. This is Sargon's victory stele, which we're going to zoom in on the top part in a minute to get a real good close look at it. Another thing during our Akkadian Empire, this is when we have the Epic of Gilgamesh being written down. I mean, I'm going, like, you're able to look at it. The PowerPoint's in there. It should be good. Don't worry. Don't worry. Like I said, don't write down the rule for 6 years. I'm never going to ask you that. Now, we think that Gilgamesh was probably written during the Sumerian time, but I shouldn't say all, but the earliest cuneiform tablets we have of this actually come from the time of the Akkadians. The Akkadians loved the story. They wrote down tons and tons and tons of copies. So let's go check out first the location of our Akkadian Empire. And if we ruled all of Mesopotamia, I think you can probably already imagine where it's going to be. So our Akkadian Empire is going to be where Mesopotamia is. Now, some of you might be thinking, Senor Kenny, what is with this light green or blue or teal, or I have a hard time describing colors, kind of color. What is up with that? And really, what this is showing is this actually used to be the Persian Gulf as well. You see, Ashlyn said, I want more land. So she brought a shovel of dirt and put it over where the sea was. And Carson says, I want more land, and brought a shovel of dirt. And over thousands of years, all of this, which was once water, got filled in with land. Isn't that pretty cool how people were able to go change their environment and create more land for farming? So this brown, however, is our Akkadian Empire. We see it goes past Mesopotamia, actually into Elam, which I wish we were able to talk about Elam, but just unfortunately not in the cards. That's our like Proto-Persian Empire like groups. It's really cool. But all of these cities fell under Sargon's rule. So now this right here, and you do not have to write this stuff here. You do not need to write this stuff. What do we think is happening in this image here? What do we think is happening in this image? What do you think's happening in this picture, Aaron?
It looks like a king right there, like on the left.
And what king do you think that's going to be?
I think that might be Gilgamesh.
No, it's not going to be Gilgamesh, Danielle.
Sargon?
Yeah. Now, how did you guys know that this guy was the king, that he was the ruler? How did you know, Caleb?
You can kind of tell that he's the ruler because of his hat.
Okay, he's got a fancy
How
hat.
he's dressed.
How he's dressed. How else can you tell, Ashlyn?
He looks like he's a lot bigger and taller than all of them, and it's like standing up, and like all of them are like trying to like surrendering or something.
Yeah, he's big. He's fancy dressed. He's got a fancy hat with horns on it, which would be pretty scary. He's bigger. He's taller. You know, and we're going to see this common as we see artwork of rulers. We're going to see that they're going to be depicted much larger. I bet Aaron probably first guessed Gilgamesh because look at this guy. He's a giant. He probably could put a headlock on a lion too. So, yeah. So we have our King Sargon here, and so what's happening in this? What's happening in this picture that we see? Samuel, what's happening?
People are dying?
Yeah. I mean, we see Sargon has a spear in his hand. You see this poor guy has like a spear through like his throat. That would really ruin your day. You have this person over here begging for mercy. And so Sargon, this is a victory stela. He put this up after crushing this city-state. And he'd put it up in the city-state, and it's one of those things that it's like, this is put in the middle of your town square. Every time you walk by it, you're reminded that how powerful Sargon was and that he could do it again, so you better pay your tribute to him. All right, my cherubs, that is going to be our notes for the day. So, bravissimo. I'm going to stop the recording. I would love to see your smile.